Hello and welcome back. It's time to take a look at another issue of PSM Magazine, the 100% independent PlayStation magazine. Today we're going to be looking at issue 6 from February 1998. And as you can see on the cover here, Resident Evil 2 is the big deal this issue. It looks like they've got 100 exclusive screenshots in there. And also some stuff on Tekken 3 and Bushido Blade 2. So all in all, pretty good month here at PSM. I love the cover art here too. I want to point that out real quick. Such great art on this issue in particular. I do have a little bit of a tear there where I peeled an address label off this issue. I guess way back when. Having my address on there must have bothered me. I don't know. I also don't have the double-sided poster mentioned in the upper right corner. I do remember pulling that out rather and taping it to the back of the door in my room. So yeah, who knows what happened to that, but it's not in the issue here, so we won't see it today. But it was really just a larger version of the cover art that you see here. So if you can imagine that art, but scaled out to cover 2 pages basically, and that was the poster. So, all right, so let's get into it here. Open up the issue, and right away, that looks familiar, huh? Another ad for Hercules. If you've been watching my other videos, the last few issues of the magazine have had that advertisement in there somewhere, the big double pager like that. Fighting Force, again, another returning customer, I guess, over at PSM Advertising. Another double page ad. And here we are at the intro, and I always like this section. They have a little fun. You kind of get to learn about the editors a little bit every month, right? It gives the magazine its personality. And it's a lot of little things that I like about this magazine, and this issue does a great job of illustrating that. Like everything from the editors here in their photos, they've got a zombie dressed up in different outfits to kind of look like each of them. Right, and they've got the big one over here in Chris's editorial where they've got him sitting at the desk with what looks like a basketball in his hand, I guess. Yeah, I thought for a moment that was like a jumbo margarita or something, but that's a basketball. And then little touches like their mascot down here and the bottom middle. He's been zombified too, and then of course the little gag shot that they do every month. You've got the scene from Resident Evil 2 where the zombies come through the window of the gun shop, but they've got the caption on there, "For the last time we're all out of PSM," and I like that. It suggests that like it's some bookstore owner who's all out of PSM and the hordes just keep coming for it. It's kind of dumb. I don't know. That kind of stuff makes me laugh though, and I loved it back then and I still like it now. I feel like, as I said a moment ago, really lends to the personality of the magazine, right? It's very cool, very fun. So let's take a quick look at some of the things that the editors have to say this month about themselves. Let's see. Chris Slate, editor-in-chief, what's it like to be a zombie? What's weird is how your taste changes. Along with the whole hunger for brains thing, I find myself playing the oddest games like The Crow, Fantastic Four, and Cosmic Race, and God help me, I'm enjoying them. So the gag there is suggesting those are all terrible games of the time. The Crow game, especially the Fantastic Four game and the Cosmic Race game, those are all bad. So I guess suggesting that because he's undead, he now has super shitty taste in video games. I don't know. It was fun though, bagging on those games month after month. I think you'll see them reference those games every now and then in this magazine as just being like crappy on a legendary level. Noah, what's it like to be a zombie? None of my clothes fit because, but that doesn't stop me from being fashionable since the waif look is still in. My DJ career has really taken off since all the best parties are underground and are already filled with the living dead. Yeah, I like it. Okay, Charles Froman, how he became a zombie, rather. Says, had unsafe relations with a zombie after a party. So, again, dumb humor in the magazine, but I like it. And here you go. First big ad for Resident Evil 2. If you've been watching the other videos, they've got little quarter-page ads building up to this issue. So just like the little, sidebar here where the guy's peeking around the corner, that was the whole ad in previous issues. So now it's, 2 whole pages and kind of a little bit of a tease for a couple of months before you get to this. And the blitz is on, man. That game was just like the full court press as far as advertising goes back then. You saw it everywhere, and for good reason. It was going to sell a ton of copies, and the hype for it was just astronomical. So table of contents looks like the Resident Evil 2 stories taking center stage. Walkthroughs galore, though. They've got Alundra, Secrets Guide, tips and items for Final Fantasy Tactics. Looks like some tips on Star Wars, the fighting game, Masters of the Terraskasi, if I'm saying that right. And then they've got a complete walkthrough for Broken Sword. So that's pretty cool. Some other things over here, bonus levels, power-ups, that kind of stuff. These old magazines, man, they were always full of like codes and tips and stuff because there was no game facts back then, or game FAQs. There was not really like readily available stuff like that back in the day, so you'd see that kind of content in these magazines all over the place. They had dedicated magazines that were just tips and walkthroughs and stuff. So here we are looking at the news. And they say, okay, Metal Gear's got a release date now, so that's great. That's one that the crew had been talking about. You'd see a lot of mentions to it, or mentions about it, rather. So there's a lot of build-up for that game, and there was a demo that came out at the time that just kind of set the PlayStation world on fire. Yeah, I remember that demo was awesome. And it was in Japanese, too. If I remember correctly, because when you'd get the game over screen, you'd get the Japanese voice acting of the lady calling out for Snake. Saneku! Saneku! Metal Gear. Yeah, I can't wait till we get to the issues where they have that in their hands and it's like a full deep dive, full review. They love Metal Gear at PSM. Looks like 1997, they say Sony exceeds all their sales goals, right? So that's not a huge surprise, looking back now. But yeah, that was a big year for PlayStation, man. They had Final Fantasy VII kind of leading the charge. That was like the big deal that year. And there were a lot of other really phenomenal games that came out. So it's no surprise, And 98 was going to be another banger of a year too. And 99 would also continue to kick ass. Really, the PlayStation just had like such a good run. It had just like year after consecutive year of just great releases coming out for it. So, but yeah, there's your news this issue, more or less. They got something about an Aliens game coming out, winner of their contest, and another Net Euros update. It'll be interesting to see when these taper off. They kind of go over it every month now, and it was super interesting at the time, this concept of having a developer console that anybody could get. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Eventually, the talk of it is going to taper off. It'll be interesting to note when that is. So here we are now looking at gossip section. Looks like Tekken 3 is coming really soon, they're saying, right? And yeah, I think they're right. I think Tekken 3 is just around the corner. If I remember right, I want to say it came out in March. So they might have been right on that one. I can't remember offhand, though. I should. Tekken 3 was huge for me. But some rumors about Square possibly leaving Sony's camp, and they're kind of clearing that up and saying, no, it's just, PlayStation was kind of partnered with them for a limited time, but they're going to now, publish all their own stuff, and that doesn't mean they're going anywhere. So, yeah, kind of clearing that up. Advertisement for Riven, the sequel to Myst. Didn't play either of those games. That was like the game that, like, your friend's mom had played, maybe. That was, I don't know, she was kind of a gamer, but not really, All right, the Japanese section, or the import section, Nihon Game Otaku, and you see Chibi back and bigger than ever, and he's got more terms this month. He's talking about 2 games. He's talking about Brigandine and R-types. Those are his picks. So if you were importing games back then, you were definitely paying attention to this section of the magazine and looking for those kinds of tips and stuff like that on what you needed to buy. Looks like they also talk about a Resident Evil 2 commercial that was filmed and included horror movie legend George Romero directing it, but I guess it didn't come out in the States for whatever reason. They only used it in Japan, which seems weird because, you know, I know people in the US knew who he was back then, so you would think they would want to capitalize on that at the time. One other quick call out here. You got Bill Paris over there on the left, sitting in his chair wearing an ECW shirt. ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, in the late 90s, 96, 97, 98. Wrestling was awesome. It was like the best time. I could do a whole other video just talking about how cool wrestling was back in those days, and how lucky I was to be a teenager watching all that stuff. But the reason I call out his t-shirt is because it just kind of lends to again, the personality of the editors and everything in the magazine, but like it gave him, at the time, it sounds kind of silly now, but like at the time, having that shirt on gave him a little bit of like street cred with the kids, more or less, right? You'd see this grown adult wearing the ECW shirt and you're like, oh, he's cool. Yeah, okay, this dude's into the stuff that I like. He knows what's up. He's wearing an ECW shirt. So just a fun call out. I think that's not the first or rather not the last time we'll see one of those guys wearing an ECW shirt. So here in the next page, they're talking about Einhander, which I love. Definitely going to have a video on that one coming soon. Bushido Blade 2, another great one. Bust a Move, I'm also going to have a video on that one at some point here too. I've got those all sitting in my collection. So there will be coverage on those. And oh yeah, there he is again in his ECW shirt down at the bottom. And looks like Chibi's all tuckered out. Moving on, got an ad for San Francisco Rush. And the first of this month's reviews, you've got Alundra. Alundra, a very cool Zelda-like game, kind of resembling Link to the Past a little bit, but definitely had its own personality, its own charm, stood on its own merits, had some cool cutscenes and stuff. It was a working designs game, and they always had like just the best packaging for their games. Everything was just like top shelf, totally deluxe with working designs, and Alundra was no exception. Let's see, we got Micro Machines, FIFA, Auto Destruct. I didn't play any of those. Neither did I play Nagano Winter Olympics 98. I almost called it Nagano. One, that's that game that I was kind of making fun of because the character that they've got at the top of the column just looks so damn goofy to me. But there it is, getting a 3 out of 5, which ain't bad. That's respectable. So credit to that game. That game is one of those ones that I think, no pun intended, one of those ones. It's one of those games where I'm sure there's somebody out there who has it in their collection and they fondly remember playing it back then and loving it. So kind of like Trap Gunner for me. Tennis Arena, I did not play. No comments there. Let's see, we got Load Runner, Real Fishing, NBA in the Zone 98. Didn't play any of those. Dragon Ball GT Final Bout gets a 1. Whoa. I guess they were not fans. And yeah, Dragon Ball games were rough back then. There were not any great Dragon Ball games, in my opinion, not until like the PlayStation 2 era. Then they started to get respectable. Now we've got an awesome Dragon Ball game with Dragon Ball Fighter Z, right? Or Fighters. Anyway, on PS4 and Xbox, and coming to Nintendo Switch pretty soon here. So yeah, but I guess that one from the PlayStation era was one of several stinkers. Broken Sword getting a 2.5. It's interesting because I know that game has kind of got a legacy from over the years, and it's got fans, and they even have a walkthrough this issue for that game, but yet it gets a 2.5 out of 5. So yeah, I don't know. Not sure what to think about that. I never really played through Broken Sword, so I don't have an opinion one way or another. I just kind of know of the legacy of that game. Ray Tracer is another one I didn't play, but looks like I didn't miss out on anything because it only got a 2 out of 5. And the Flashback section where they kind of look at older reviews and then give them new scores. And I will hang on this for just a moment here. ESPN Extreme Games gets a bad rap. That game got 2.5 originally. They would have given it had they been around when the system launched and that game came out. And now they give it a 1 star. And let's see, let me make sure I can read this here. They say ESPN Extreme Games is a testament to bad design. Basically, it was a racing game, but you could choose to ride on skates, street luge, skateboard, or mountain bike. Each of the 6 different tracks contain hazards, and you had to dodge, and gates you had to pass through. Going through a gate awarded you with extra blah, blah, blah. They're kind of describing the game here, but what's your beef, guys? I want to know. The tracks are generic. The 2-player mode is simply boring. It would have been better if Sony had just released a Skate or Die clone. At least it would have been fun. I don't know, man. I have ESPN Extreme Games. I should do it for the channel at some point because it's got some great old full-motion video in there. But I like that game a lot. That was one that I played a lot when the PlayStation launched, and I legit really had a great time with it. Let's see here. We've got an ad for Micro Machines, and now they start talking about what makes a good game. And this is a feature where they kind of break down different things. Character has to have personality, they call out there, and now they get into good character designs on the left side, and kind of breaking down what they think about each of those characters, and that makes them kind of stand out. And you can pause the video here and read those if you want to. I'm not going to kind of read through the whole thing here, but they talk about game difficulty. They talk about reaching goals and keeping it consistently fun for the player with a sense of achievement, I think. And they're going to continue to go on with it here. And wow, they really kind of go into this. I kind of forgot what an extensive feature this is. Oh, great gameplay moments. Yeah, let's hang on that for a moment here. They talk about 10 of their favorite gameplay moments. I'll just pick some out of the list here. I won't read the whole thing because you can just pause it and do that. But Resident Evil, they list the dog attack. They say you're walking along in a dark, empty hall. Everything's dead quiet, and then crash! Bloodthirsty hell dogs come smashing through the window at you. One of the few truly scary moments in video games. And yeah, at the time they were right. So yeah, that's a good one to have at number 1. Number 8, they've got Toshinden, Sophia's Slap. Still the most humiliating move in fighting games. She puts down her whip, picks your sorry butt up, and slaps you back and forth. It was the ultimate crowd pleaser. Yeah, it was. It was a good move when that game launched. It was the one that made all my friends laugh. When you did it, everybody got a kick out of it. Let's see, Tomb Raider, the T-Rex chase. Yeah, definitely. They say nothing leaves an impression quite like being chased by a giant hungry T-Rex. This is the moment that most people bring up first when talking about Tomb Raider. Yeah, amen to that. They're right. And if you watch my video on Tomb Raider on the PlayStation, I go through that section of the game. And yeah, it's still great. It still holds up. Another ad for Crash, but we've been seeing that same ad, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. Moving on here, they've got previews, and Bloody Roar gets a page, and that's great. I love Bloody Roar. It was a great fighting game. I still have it. And I'll have a video on the channel here pretty soon for that one as well. Gex 2, Enter the Gecko. I didn't play that. Again, Gex kind of all over the place back then. Now these 2 pages though, Breath of Fire 3 and Tekken 3, 2 real big games for me. Man, I loved Breath of Fire 3. I remember playing that for what felt like forever. It was a long game. And I did a lot of grinding in that game. There's a battle in the start of the game where you have to lose. Like, you're supposed to lose. And the way you lose is kind of a gut punch. And you lose to these heinous cretins. And it's just like, oh man, I want to get those guys. I don't want to lose. And so I was just grinding and grinding and grinding in the area before you encounter them, hoping to get up to a high enough level where I could finally beat them and just see what happens, see if there's any way that like maybe there's a secret ending or something, but there's not. You just eventually hit this point where the game decides you have to lose, or you run out of healing items and there's just nothing you can do anymore. So yeah, but you can make it a really long fight. Tekken 3. So I said before, Tekken 3, huge game for me. And yeah, this was kind of the start of me, knowing that this was going to be something special. But I didn't really know how good Tekken 3 was going to be until it actually came out and I had it in my hands. But yeah, it's fun to look back at these previews now too, just because, man, that game made such an impact on me. I still have the bonus CD sleeve, I guess, wallet that came with the game when I bought it. All these years later, hanging in there. It's underneath one of the seats in my car. It's full of CDs. Rascal and Tonba. So Rascal I didn't play. Tonba I did. Tonba's pretty good, and it's one of those ones that kind of fetches a decent price if you're trying to track down a physical copy these days. I don't remember if it's on PlayStation Network or not, but either way, if you can get a way to play that game, you should check it out. It's pretty good. Newman Haas Racing, definitely didn't play that. IndyCar racing wasn't really my thing, though I did play Andretti Racing on the PlayStation and had quite a bit of fun with that. So I guess whenever they get around to covering that one, I'll maybe have something to say about that. And then a cool one-page ad for Alundra, kind of showing off what the game is about. The spirit of the game, I think, is conveyed in this ad. It's cool. And again, working designs. Everything about working designs was so cool back then, man. Everything they touched was gold. Master of Monsters. I didn't play that. I'm really not familiar with that one at all. 16-bit cult classic is back with better graphics and bigger monsters. I don't know, man. I like 16-bit stuff. Maybe I should check that out. I guess I'll read up on that one later. Mega Man Neo, which would become Mega Man Legends. And yeah, Mega Man Legends was fun. I liked that game. It definitely had its issues. Control issues, I think, were the main problem I had with it. But yeah, really colorful, fun game. Cool music, good personality. Powerboat Racing, I didn't play that back then. It looks kind of cool, though. It almost looks kind of Hydro Thunder. I like that. Subscription card here. Advertisement for why you should subscribe. And here we've got Need for Speed 3 and Diablo. Need for Speed 3, I think I remember playing back then, and I want to say it was pretty good. I don't remember. Maybe, I think I'm mixing it up. Never mind. I didn't play Need for Speed 3. I'm thinking of Test Drive. I was kind of thinking as I'm doing this here, I'm trying to record and talk about all this stuff at once, and my mind is like thinking one thing, and I'm remembering hey, that game with the cars. I'm like, no, that was Test Drive. But wait, didn't you already talk about that? Didn't they already cover that in 97 somewhere? I think it made their top 10 list even for PSM, if I remember now. So, yeah. Sorry. Long story short, didn't play Need for Speed 3, I don't think. Diablo. That I did play. That I really liked. Great game. Good port. Had a couch co-op, too, which was a really nice, I guess, feature for PlayStation owners. I love couch co-op stuff, especially Diablo games. Let's see, advertising IGN. Still around. Good for you, IGN. You guys are still kicking around 20 years later. Preview for Riven and NBA Shootout 98. I'm going to pass both of those by here. Resident Evil 2. Now here comes all of those screenshots that they advertised on the cover. Oh yeah. Yeah, this was where it was at, man. You got to see what the the concept art for these characters, right? But then also the in-game models, the liquors and stuff, and what the new zombies looked like. I can't remember if the demo that came with Resident Evil Director's Cut, I can't remember if that was out already at the time of this magazine's printing, or if this came rather if that demo came after this magazine. I want to say the demo came before the magazine. But anyway, I don't know. Yeah, I was just kind of scrounging for any info I could get on Resident Evil 2 back then. So this issue, along with that demo, they were kind of like a mild obsession at the time. Huge fan of Resident Evil 1. Not so much the director's cut. So here we are. You can see where the poster used to be that got ripped out. But they've got their guide for Alundra here, getting some secrets kind of discovered. An ad for WCW Nitro wrestling game. And moving into tips for Final Fantasy Tactics. And one thing I always liked about these sections in these magazines is you get a lot of official art here, right? Like these character portraits, and then like the actual weapons along the side here. So getting to just kind of see that stuff in print was cool, right? Because it's not always in the game in such a way where you see that stuff all the time necessarily, depending on the game, right? Like sometimes you see this art like on one menu screen or something like that. So it's just kind of fun to see it pop up in these magazines. And then we've got a moves and combos list for the shitty Star Wars fighting game, Masters of the Terrascasi. I don't know, I guess maybe it's got its fans out there, but I'm definitely not one of them. We've got another cool pull-out tip sleeve here. Looks like they've got Final Fantasy Tactics and Game Day 98. And I'll kind of slide this over here. Looks like they talk about some of the sub-quests. Getting Cloud to join your party in Chapter 4. That's cool. Did not know that Cloud was in Tactics. Or maybe I did and just forgot. I don't know. Broken Sword, they got their complete walkthrough here, and just kind of readjust. There we go. Kind of interesting, right? They can walk you through in 4 total pages. And that's all it takes for Broken Sword. Interesting. Steel Rain power-ups, another one of those crazy contests. Grand Tour Racing 98. Code Junkies section, here we go. Nothing too interesting this month, it looks like. They've got first-person view for Armored Core, Frogger, Unlimited Lives. Oh, hey, Fighting Force, Invincibility, and Level Select. I should have done that. Had only I known when I did my video. Could have seen more of the stages. And then some stuff for G-Police. Looks like a bunch of passwords. Pandemonium 2, the game with the Nikki character that they would use in all their marketing. Courier Crisis, Tomb Raider 2. What's in the Tomb Raider 2 codes here? Oh man, all weapons and ammo and a level skip. That's cool. That's good to know. Oh, and here we go. Resident Evil Director's Cut. Looks like double ammo in advanced mode and rookie mode in the Resident Evil 2 preview. Yeah, okay, so clearly that answers my question from earlier. The demo was out. Yeah, because I thought in my memory that this issue must have landed like right before the game hit shelves. More stuff. Moto Racer. Oh, cool. Moto Racer. I love that game. Night mode, that's cool. I forgot that game had that. Pocket bikes, that's cool, that's interesting. Check out Moto Racer if you haven't. Also check out my video on that one if you haven't, if you're interested. And secret characters for the Street Fighter collection, that's cool. Bunch of Game Shark codes, letters section. They're getting some feedback from the, girls and gaming thing that they did. It must have been 1 or 2 issues ago, I guess. And they continued their running thing here on the bottom with link up if you're looking for like a pen pal or something to talk about video games. complete with addresses and stuff, which is crazy. Looks like they're talking about, can a game be too long here in the pause section? And so they're going to look for people to respond to that next month. I'll let you pause it and zoom in if you want to read that. It's a lot for me to read out loud here. And somebody asking, hey, what about those cool Parappa hats from a few issues ago? What did he say? They just said, unfortunately, Parappa merchandise is hard to come by unless you have a friend in Japan, of course. Judging from the responses, though, Parappa merchandising could be very successful here in the U.S. Yeah, okay, so hint, hint, hey, Sony, if you're reading this, sell some Parappa hats. All right, their Smart Bomb section as we get ready to close out the issue this month. And looks like they're having a jab at The Crow, which I mentioned earlier that they're going to make fun of that game and Cosmic Race and definitely that Fantastic Four game. Oh, this is a little fun. This ad here on the side. Uncle Jed's Game Shed, gameshed.com. Come for the freaks, stay for the games. It looks like such a humble ad that somebody could have just done up, you know, on like the most basic computer back then. And here it is appearing in game magazines. I know this wasn't the only one where you could see it. You definitely, I remember that ad from various magazines back then. And it always looked pretty plain back then, but now it's funny looking back at it now. It's very of the era, small business kind of, you know. Let me get the picture of the hillbilly there. An ad for their tip line, which was surely a great deal, at $1.49 a minute. I know I've bagged on that before in other videos, so I'll let it go this time. But yeah, finishing up some of the letters stuff. Oh, the top this section. So it looks like for Alundra, you got to get 50 Gilded Falcons, excuse me. Final Fantasy Tactics, learn all the abilities, and Star Wars, the crappy fighting game, most wins in survival mode. Man, if you pulled that off, you earned a better gift than a shitty Barracuda analog controller. Oh, what a bummer. Okay. But hey, I guess it was cool, you know, getting a free controller for playing a game or something. Getting some recognition from the PSM crew here. And they're also talking about some of their travels. You can see, looks like they've got a shot of an ECW. I think I got a little bit of glare here on the caption. Let's see what that says. Bill Paris was everywhere this month at a recent taping of ECW. He proudly held his homemade PSM is Extreme sign. Yeah, of course. Of course. So yeah, further lending to the street cred with the kids, as I said earlier. Again, the marketplace returns with more advertising for people looking to swap or trade or sell. And then they've got a quick peek at next issue. They've got a huge guide for Resident Evil 2, so yep, game's right around the corner. And the big game is Dead or Alive, and that'll be a fun one to cover. Dead or Alive was a really cool fighting game, pretty landmark at the time. I'm going to adjust the camera real quick here, just because I had a little bit of image getting cut off there, I noticed. But here we are. Inside back cover, 2-page ad for Final Fantasy Tactics. Kind of a cool image there. And then taking us out is Newman Haas Racing. And they got a fun dog wearing a racing helmet there. So yeah, I like it. Good on them. But that is issue number 6 of PSM here from February 1998. And thanks for hanging out and taking a look at it with me. Take a look at the other issues of PSM that I've covered here on the channel, as well as the games from those issues. I've got videos for... I'm trying to basically do one game from each issue. I will pick out and do a video on it if I don't already have it. So look for those links as well. But hey, thanks again for hanging out, and we'll catch you next time.